Universe Makers, First Scroll, written and narrated by C. Taylor. Please review the description for trigger warnings to make sure this is content that you are comfortable with. Chapter 3. The next night, Hannah sat in the senior girls' common room, curled up on the big couch, hugging one of its pillows, trying to come up with another plan. So far, her continued attempt to get Dr. Miller's help had gone miserably, and she was no closer to getting her help than yesterday. If anything, she was pretty sure she'd only made things worse. She'd tried waiting a whole day, which wasn't easy, for Dr. Miller to get settled before asking her again. The woman still rushed past her, out of the classroom, mumbling something about still having too many things to do. Her second attempt came later in the afternoon when she waited for more than an hour outside the instructor's lounge. The idea was to catch her when hopefully she didn't have anything pressing and would have a moment or two to spare for her. She'd already organized all her questions and had her tablet ready to take any notes. All she needed was a few minutes of the instructor's time. She could even follow while Dr. Miller walked to her next class. Unfortunately, Dr. Miller had been deep in a conversation with the science instructor, Dr. McCullen, when she finally walked out of the lounge. Feeling a little desperate, she interrupted their conversation and repeated her plea for help. Mr. McCullen had stepped forward, eager as most of the instructors to help her. Dr. Miller, however, pulled up behind the science teacher and whispered something into his ear. Out of the corner of her eye, Hannah noticed that Dr. Miller moved her good hand to Mr. McCullen's butt and started massaging him as she whispered. It was an unpleasant image Hannah was pretty sure was burned into her mind forever. After she backed away slightly, Mr. McCullen started sweating, mumbled some excuse Hannah couldn't understand, and rushed away with the new instructor. The whole attempt just ended up being incredibly awkward and more than a little creepy. But awkward, creepy or not, she still needed the woman's help and a plan that would actually get it. Wow, a rare appearance by the elusive Miss Mayshaw Banner, Sarah teased as she entered the room and pulled Hannah out of her thoughts. And without any books? Sign of the apocalypse? Other girls around her laughed. Some oohed exaggeratedly. Others acted like they were trying to hide from a catastrophe and pretended to be horrified. Hannah hid the embarrassment and discomfort she always felt at the overwhelming attention the other girls gave her. Instead, she laughed as she tossed the pillow she was holding at the group. Knock it off, you guys. Can't I take a night off without it being a big deal? Sarah quieted the other girls with a quick wave of her hand and flopped on the couch next to Hannah. Now that school was over for the day, she changed out of her uniform into something much shorter and tighter. I don't know. You've never done it before, at least not since I've known you. Anything wrong? Hannah hesitated to tell the girl that was the closest thing to a friend she had at the school the whole story. Instead, she asked the other girls, "Does anyone have the new instructor, Dr. Miller?" Immediately, a low grumble of moans and complaints sounded throughout the room. She made out phrases like, "What a witch," and "I felt cold just stepping into the room" over the general noise and felt a little better that it wasn't just her. Sarah leaned closer to Hannah while the others kept complaining. "What do you care about the new English teacher? You're not in her class," she wondered. Hannah shrugged. "She's fluent in 15 different languages, and I wanted to know how she did it. She didn't seem very friendly when I asked her and wondered if it was just me." Sarah backed away. Her eyes grew big when she spoke. "Nope, not just you. There is something seriously wrong with that woman. I can't believe the school even hired her." "I'm about to have my father fly someone from our security out to Mrs. Lewis' parents' house and drag her back here. I don't care who died in her family," Sarah threatened. "Wouldn't do any good," Hannah said under her breath before she could stop herself. "What?" Sarah asked. Hannah bit her lip hard. Mistakes like that were stupid. She knew better. "Good idea," she smiled back at Sarah and hoped she believed her cover. Sarah smiled proudly and looked down. She pulled at her top, adjusting the neckline to show as much of her cleavage as possible for the big night out. "Since you seem to be homework free tonight, want to join us?" she offered. Hannah looked down at her hands. "I may be a little distracted right now, but I still have a lot of homework." Sarah looked straight at Hannah. "Is it really that, or are you just afraid?" she pushed. Hannah didn't answer, shifted uncomfortably, and pushed her heavy glasses back into place when they slipped. Sarah shook her head. "Honestly, Hannah, if you fixed that nose of yours, got some contacts, and curled your hair a little, you would easily get any man on campus begging after you," she advised. Hannah turned red. They don't make contact strong enough to help. Besides, guys try now, but this way I know they're only after my family's money, she revealed just enough so Sarah would stop. Sarah raised her hands in frustration and let them drop. You realize this strategy will only make you distrust any guy that likes you, she explained. Claims to like me, Hannah corrected. You just proved my point, Hannah. Yes, I know. This way I don't waste my time. She finished all the information she was willing to share. Sarah chuckled. Heaven forbid anything get between you and studying, she teased. Except that creepy English teacher. Seriously, what is up with her arm? Hannah laughed a little and shook her head that she didn't know. Last chance. You sure you don't want to come? Sarah tempted. No, I've wasted enough time already, she countered. Sarah rolled her eyes right before pushing away from the couch. Alrighty, girls, who's coming? She called through the group. Several girls stepped forward, all dressed similar to Sarah and had way more makeup on than was allowed during school hours. Hannah watched a few minutes longer as the girls carefully slid out a side window and headed across the quad. Hannah spent a moment longer staring out the window, feeling surprisingly better now that she knew it wasn't just her Dr. Miller didn't seem to like. She still had to come up with a plan to get her help, though. Maybe her best bet was to wait a week before asking her again. Starting at a new school would be stressful for anyone, but this school is likely to be harder than most given the families that were represented here. Hopefully giving her a few more days would do the trick. She finally pushed away from the couch and made her way to her private suite. She liked this new plan, especially liked that she wouldn't have to waste any more time on the woman this week. With all the time she'd wasted trying just that day, she'd be lucky to finish all her work before dawn. The next evening, Hannah was doing her favorite thing in the whole world, riding her horse Chauncey with the rest of the equestrian club just outside New York. Mid-fall had given the air a freshly chilly bite. The late afternoon sun cast a warm orange glow on everything in sight, making the trees that had already started to change colors look even more breathtaking. Hannah looked forward to it all week. It was the only time she ever truly relaxed. So why did she feel so uneasy? The normally tranquil atmosphere was grating on Hannah's nerves. Chauncey kept wandering away from the group without her noticing as she kept rehearsing in her mind the week, trying to figure out what had her so distracted. After pulling him around to catch up with the group for the fifth time, she started going over her week again. She went through her classes one by one, all her assignments, every meeting she had, every commitment she made. The reins yanked forward in Hannah's hand, snapping her out of her week's review. She looked down and saw that Chauncey had wandered away from the other horses, stopped in a grassy patch, and dropped his head to eat contentedly. Hannah's teeth ground together as she pulled the beautiful horse back to attention gently and guided him around to continue the ride. "What is wrong with you today?" Sarah finally asked when Hannah was close enough. "Usually we're all trying to keep up with you." "I don't know," she answered truthfully. "I feel like there's something important I'm missing. Maybe it's Dr. Miller," she said, trying to figure out the reason. "Oh, her again?" Sarah asked after making a gagging noise. "What is it with you and her?" Hannah shrugged. Even when she said it, she knew it wasn't Dr. Miller. She'd already liked the idea of waiting a week before approaching her again. There was no way she would let the cranky teacher ruin this. Sarah started to talk to one of the other girls when Hannah didn't give any answer. Hannah went over her entire week in her head again. She'd reported her gift to Bailey to the administrators. Her room at school was in order. At home, the only thing she hadn't finished was the bed, which still bugged her but didn't explain how upset she felt. "Hannah!" Sarah yelled, making both Hannah and her horse jump. Oh, the group was far away again. Chauncey was headed for a small stream off the trail. Hannah cursed and pulled on Chauncey's reins again. "Seriously, girl, what is wrong with you?" she grumbled. "It's like your brain has gone shopping or something." Shopping. "Catherine!" The memory hit like lightning. It was Wednesday. She was supposed to be shopping with Catherine instead of writing this week since it was their only non-essential class. Hannah looked at her watch. 5:45 p.m. They were at least an hour away from the school. She cursed again, pulled Chauncey around, and started him at a full run back for the stable. "Hannah, I told you, no running the horse!" her instructor yelled angrily. Hannah knew she'd be in trouble, but she had to get to her phone, fast. Hannah didn't stop, didn't even slow down. If anything, she urged Chauncey to go faster. She could feel the beautiful animal's excitement as he surged forward at a faster pace. Minutes later, they arrived at the stables. Hannah pulled back on Chauncey's reins hard and dismounted him before he'd fully stopped. She ran over to her bag. Her rushed fingers made mistakes at the zippers and pockets that took more time than if she'd just slowed down, but she couldn't. She had to call Catherine, get her on the phone as soon as possible. Even though she dreaded making the call, she knew no matter how unpleasant the call was going to be, Catherine deserved at least an apology. She finally found her phone and quickly tapped Catherine's number. She took off her riding helmet, ran her hand through her hair, and paced back and forth as she listened to it ring. The moment she heard Catherine pick up, Hannah blurted out in a rush, "I'm sorry, Catherine. I told you the time but forgot to update my schedule. Next time I swear I'll update it immediately so nothing else comes up." "There won't be a next time," Catherine interrupted calmly. Too calmly. Everything inside Hannah went still. She'd never heard Catherine sound like that and knew it was bad. "Please, Catherine, I promise next time I won't forget," she pleaded. "I'm not mad, Hannah. I just don't want to be another stress in your life, which obviously I am, otherwise you wouldn't have conveniently forgotten about today. If it had been something you really wanted to do, you would have been as excited as I was. You wouldn't have let anything interfere, and you would have updated your schedule the moment we'd agreed to it." Catherine's voice was monotone and defeated. The desperation she felt made Hannah's chest spasm in silent sobs. "Catherine, I wouldn't have offered if I didn't want to do it," she tried, and felt the lie as she said it. "Really? Because after waiting outside the school for more than an hour and thinking you forgot the appointment, Henry let me know he reminded you when he dropped you off on Monday. If it was something you wanted to do, why would Henry have to remind you of it barely 2 hours after you offered?" Her words were faster, angrier this time. Hannah's mouth opened and closed several times as she tried to come up with something to say that would fix what she'd just broken. "That's what I thought." Catherine took the silence as confirmation. "You don't have to worry about coming home every weekend. It's not like it does either of us any good. If you need anything, Hannah, you know all you have to do is call." The phone went silent. Sobs she fought still made Hannah's body shake and her eyes filled with silent tears. The hand holding her phone went limp to her side. The hand in her hair fell to the other. Her body shook as she struggled to lock down the emotions that threatened to crush her. Chauncey walked up behind her, lowered his head, and gently bumped her back with his nose. The sweet endearment from the animal gave Hannah enough strength to keep from crumpling to the ground. She slowly turned around, patted the side of Chauncey's dear head, and reached up to loosen the strap that held his bridle in place. She was alone again, deserted this time because of her own selfish actions, not a drunk driver that didn't even remember what he'd done the next morning. Hannah eased the bit out of Chauncey's mouth and started gently rubbing around his mouth the way he liked. "At least I haven't lost you," she whispered into his ear and leaned the side of her face against his straw jaw while she tried again to stop the tears that kept flowing. Horse hooves pounded in the distance and became louder. Hannah wiped away her tears and braced herself for what she was sure would be the second worst experience of the evening. "Hannah, let go of the horse," Instructor Gloria ordered as she dismounted her horse, her face red with anger. "Until you learn to ride safely, you will not mount another horse. Do you understand me?" she promised as she grabbed Chauncey's lead rope and led the horse into the stable. "Gloria, I told you I've been riding since I was 3. I know how to ride safely at any speed." Hannah countered loudly towards the barn, her voice still shaky from her previous conversation. Gloria walked back out, without Chauncey this time, and removed her riding gloves as she talked. "Then let me put it this way. Until you can learn to obey the rules of this riding club, you will not mount another horse here. Have I made myself clear this time?" she inquired loudly. Hannah didn't have anything to counter that one. Gloria was right, and she had clearly broken the rules. Hannah nodded numbly.